where you try to raise as much money as you can for a certain organization. And while she was doing that, she got to visit this really nice girl in the hospital and became really great friends. And the girl in the hospital really appreciated Ella visiting so much. She would ask her mother to leave the room so she can ask Ella maybe like some personal, like deep questions about, are things scary going back to school, or how were you able to adapt talking to people your own age? And Ella really was able to give her that confidence that she can make it back and be all right with everything. And so that's what got us our story of Kids to Kids. So Kids to Kids is one of the only nonprofit organizations that gives a peer-to-peer connection with acutely ill children in the hospital so they don't feel isolated, alone, or scared. And for our volunteers, we were planning on having them between the ages of 16 and 22 because it keeps the kids old enough to be mature and handle those tough situations, because it really takes a lot for a parent to let another teen or kid come and hang out with their child or anything like that. And then our second segment of volunteers, we want to have volunteers that may have had one of these illnesses and that are okay now, such as Ella, so we can match them up with kids that have the same illness that they may have had to really give that, I was there, like, you can make it through, give that empathetic connection to just let them know everything's going to be okay. And with our volunteers, we were planning on putting on some sort of course or class that they have to take before they can visit these kids, just to make sure that they know everything that goes into it. Like, the maturity needs to be very high, and things that to say and things not to say, just to make sure the kids are still comfortable and the parents are comfortable. And here's Colby Williams.
Hello, I am Colby Williams, and to start off, we are going to meet with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and we are going to be matched with one of the kids, and we're going to talk to their families and him or her, and we're just going to see how it goes from there. Here's Seth again.
And the reason we're starting with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to hopefully match us with the kid is so where Ella can go on that first visit with one of us to make sure we see how it is having a person that had the past illness, to be able to really connect with the kid and let the kid ask questions. But testing our MVP also allows us to think about things like, how long should our visits be, if we should have 2 volunteers or maybe just send 1 volunteer to visit with the kids, and also to see how the parents react, see if we need to change anything to make sure the parents are fully okay with everything that we're going to be doing. And here's Sarah McFarland.
Hi, I'm Sarah. So the majority of our competitors and nonprofits for ill children and teenagers are big events, wish granting, or providing financial support for their families. But Kids to Kids is one of the only nonprofits with the goal of providing a long-lasting, empathetic, peer-to-peer connection. And so it's not something that we want our volunteers going in and doing it once or twice, and then that's it. If you become a volunteer for Kids to Kids, you're signing on for, you're going to be their friend. You know, you're building a connection. It's not just, oh, hey, I did this once and now I'm done. And so we're providing that continuity, the empathy, and just the peer-to-peer connection. So unfortunately, there's no shortage of sick children and teenagers. There's 25 children's hospitals in Texas. The 2 that we're focusing on starting with are both local. It's San Antonio Children's Hospital and Methodist Children's Hospital. And we've already talked to these 3 volunteer organizations, National Charity League, Teens Give Back, and Young Men's Service League, to see if they would be interested in adding our nonprofit to their list that they send their volunteers to go do work for, because most of the time these organizations already have done background checks and stuff like that with their members. So our marketing plan is to take social media by storm, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and YouTube, and use user-generated content to provide a visual story of Kids to Kids and tell both the volunteer and the client stories. And user-generated content is also relatively cheap to produce, so creating that will not be that expensive, and we can put more funds towards promoting. So on Facebook, the average cost for 1,000 impressions is about $7.19, and for Instagram, it's about $6. And for Snapchat, it's a little more expensive, and it's a little, you sign on for like a month or two instead of just per 1,000 impressions. So attaining 501c3 status is usually a year-long process, and it's very expensive. You usually have to hire a lawyer. So Ann Krause, who's the executive director of fundraising for the Hemisphere Conservancy, suggested we do a doing business as, or a DBA, which is connecting with a nonprofit whose mission is similar to ours but not repetitive, so it just aligns, and they kind of can provide an umbrella protection of the 501c3 status without us having to go through the whole process. And here's Colby Williams again.
So this is our MVP timeline. This is how we're going to take things step by step through the year. So first off, we are going to meet with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And then later on in the month, we are going to be matched with one of the kids and talk to his family. His or her family, I'm sorry. And then we are going to go locally to all these hospitals in San Antonio. I'm pretty sure there are 3 children's hospitals in San Antonio, or maybe more. Yeah. And then we are going to get more volunteers. We're going to start getting a whole bunch of people, like Sarah said. We're going to connect with YMSL, NHS, and all those organization groups. And then as soon as we get all those volunteers, we're going to start meeting with more grant writers, and we're just going to sit down, just talk to them, we're going to tell them all about us. And then as soon as we do that, later on, maybe at the end of the year, we are going to start expanding more out into Texas, into like Houston, Dallas, and all those good places. And here's Seth again.
And so we're planning on putting around $250 worth of marketing into Kids to Kids, so we can really get our name out there and really try to hit them right in their feelings, to let them know that these kids are feeling isolated and alone. Like, having just somebody there with them may not just actually like increase their health, but emotionally it will take them far. Just having somebody there with you that's not just your parent or a doctor, because I know myself, I don't really talk to my parents, and having somebody my own age with me will help me by miles. And then we're planning on having informational kits that we leave in, say, like the hospital, so where if a child is coming in for maybe treatment or something with their family, a doctor can maybe just grab one of our pamphlets and hand it to the parent, let them look over it with all our information about what would go on if we're allowed to see their child and interact with them, and let them know like everything's going to be okay. We're going to do this and this with their child. We won't do this, and everything like that. And then we'll also need around $100 for our domain name. And for website development, we're planning on using $100 to build up our website, so people can also reach us through there. So we'll have our website name and everything in our pamphlets, so where if the parents want to see more, they can go to our website. And then also in the future, we're planning on having our volunteers set up in our website, so where kids can basically go find one of our volunteers, read their description and everything about them, and get a better connection through who they want to volunteer. And then the $50 would be for our training course that we're going to put our volunteers through, because that, I would say, is probably one of the most important things to have, to make sure our volunteers are mature enough and responsible enough to be around somebody else's child, because that is a very, very big thing for parents, to have that security. And so that's why we were asking for $650, but we know we can only get 500. Thank you. It's kids to kids.
Good job, guys.
Great job.
On the timeline, it seems to me you're starting a little late. I'm just curious why you wouldn't, we're going to make the $500 or $650 grants over the next week. And then in May is when you got to go up for the big prize in terms of really funding it. And I guess my advice would be maybe start earlier, because I think you're going to run out of time towards the end, so you may not have grabbed the data that you need or the set of experiences to know when you do get in front of the board then that you can confidently say we've kind of gone through this process and we're ready to launch it. So just curious, was it hard to get a meeting time with LLS, or is it one of those things, or just because it said mid-March is before it would be kind of kick off your MVP, right?
That's just how things kind of fell around some of our schedules with high school stuff and everything, and I think that was probably one of the best times for us to contact them.
Okay. I would just caution, my concern is you're going to run out of time maybe, because LLS may take a while to get back to you or set a meeting. And then when you get in from May, I think we're doing early May is when the competition is, so just want to make sure you guys have everything you need then.
They're going to expect, a little bit of development having had happened through the MVP, so I think that's what.
So, I don't know if you guys can start calling them and see if over the next few weeks you can start meeting those, so. I know you, and I'm sympathetic, you guys have crazy schedules, so it's just want to.
What a great idea, though. I mean, fantastic idea. Huge need for it, I'm sure. So, you guys, I'm thinking about this from an organizational perspective because, the plan of getting kids together that have these kind of problems makes a lot of sense. So let's figure out how we can help you do that. It's going to require. How do you see those these face-to-face meetings? Are they simply connecting kids, and they're going to utilize the typical, technology channels and whatnot?
The plan would be for our volunteers to actually go into either the hospitals or their homes to actually have that face-to-face with the kids and the actual sense of that they are actually there next to them.
Okay, so establishing those relationships.
One comment about, you talked about YMSL and Teens Give Back, which is great. Got kids in those organizations. However, they do, I know you talked about developing that long-term connection. A lot of those are for hours. And so you may consider making sure that if they volunteer, that they understand what you're all about. And it is that long-term connection that's important. So that you don't have someone just trying to get a few hours and then, and you may also consider other areas to get volunteers, like maybe churches, right? That might be a good place to go ask for volunteers to get some kids to go out as well.
Yeah, I was thinking similar lines as, I think the really compelling part of your model is that you have somebody who's had the same disease or a similar disease. So there's that, I've been there, there's the compassion, there's the connection that probably says, hey, I want to kick my mom out of the room because I want to talk to somebody who would, only somebody that would understand this. So you're probably going to need to expand your scope to be able to connect with enough people that may have a similar disease or have had a similar disease. So thinking about, you talked about your volunteers being 16 to 22. You may want to expand that a little bit and also think about kids in college who might be interested in volunteering for something like this as well. We have big schools here in Texas. Here in San Antonio, UTSA, Incarnate Word, Trinity. Maybe connecting with some of those universities to figure out how do you get into volunteer opportunities with their students as well.
So I'll just piggyback on that. One of the things I wrote down, which I think is going to be a challenge, think about your marketing plan with respect to recruiting volunteers. And expand it so that then you can come back and say, we've got a real plan, this is how we're gonna get people to make a big commitment. Because you don't want people, and what concerns me about, and I'm part of those organizations that you listed, is that it is, like Sue said, an hour by hour thing, and you want, a lot of that is a drop-in kind of philanthropy. And you want somebody to make a connection and a commitment, which is what sets you apart. But, so you really need to have a robust plan around how you're gonna recruit volunteers.
And once you figure some of those things out, you're gonna have to have an organization that supports all this, okay? And really defining that, all right, so we're gonna have somebody in charge of marketing. What are they gonna do? How many people? You're gonna have somebody around, I would imagine, training and volunteer recruitment. And then, importantly, you're gonna have someone around fundraising. And so, I think when you show up to the pitch, you need to be saying, here's what we're gonna do. Pretty much everything you've said with some of the, maybe take to heart some of the suggestions you're hearing here, but I think you need to define the organization and then show how much that's going to cost, okay? And then show how you're going to do your fundraising. And that fundraising piece to a nonprofit is kind of the lifeblood. You've got to come up with a good plan. Now, you're going to be standing in front of a large audience. It's going to be streamed. That is your best shot to get fundraising. Do not come to that without a slide at the very end that says, if you would like to donate, boom, hit them right there.
Exactly,
That's going to be your best shot out of the box. But you need to be telling people how you're going to spend their money, and you need a good plan for how you're going to feed the organization that's going to help these kids.
Only one last thing I had is on your focusing, and I understand that you want to do it right, to test, and so doing one, you get enough focus on kids. My concern is that just one data point or set of experiences may be potentially misleading. You may have a parent who is either, maybe doesn't behave necessarily like if you pick 10 out and 80% of them are okay with you meeting every other day, this one just no. So I think long and hard, maybe, I don't know if you can add one or two, but if you think, even if you do two, you've got 100% more data points than what you started. So, but I'm also cognizant you want to do it right, and you don't want to spread it too thin. So I would just maybe give some thought to that. So. Great.
Great job.
Good job, guys.
Great job.
Great job.
Okay.
Great job.
Good job.
Thanks.
Well done.
Hey, how are you?
Great job.
Great.